Hello everyone, my name is Shwani Tyagi, your philosophy and ethics teacher. So we were discussing a very important philosopher, Charvak. Not only important, a very fun philosopher also. Like in the last class, I discussed with you that how much we want him to implement in our life, especially in 2025, where we are tired of this materialistic world and we want some peace. But this is a philosopher who says that materialism is that we should move towards, and we also should not think about religion, and we should not think about past and future. So in the last class, we understood his perspective about his historical background was also done, that he was originated in 6th century BCE, and he was also called Lokayata, meaning worldly or people's philosophy, as he was the philosopher who was moving towards materialistic world, right? And he was only mentioned in Mahabharata, right? Saraswridhanta. So these are the texts where his philosophy is mentioned, right? So his original texts are not found. So whatever criticism the other philosophers gave, through that criticism we are trying to understand what his philosophy was, what he was trying to say, right? But there is no original text of his. Now he's the philosopher who talks about pratiksha. Now if you remember that I explained it in your classes, that empiricism, there are like different philosophers and empiricists also, especially in Western philosophy. We have Spinoza, we have Berkeley, we have different philosophers, right? So these are the philosophers like Leibniz. So these are the philosophers who talks about empiricism, right? So if you can see anything, right, through our five senses, if you can verify your knowledge through these five senses, only then they are existing. Otherwise, there is no existence of it, right? This is what the empiricism is. Then he rejects inferences, anuman, and testimony, that is shabda, which is written by some third or second person, right? So he rejects anuman, inference, saying that we cannot verify if it's true or not, right? If you are seeing smoke and fire, then there is like no relation of it, right? Then testimony, that it is not reliable, the person who wrote it, the person who said it. If you think that is trustworthy and you can write it, you can tell it that yes, that person is 100% trustworthy, only then you can take it as valid source of knowledge. Otherwise you have to deny it. So this is why he only and only accepts what? He only accepts perception, empiricist. Now, denial of God, soul, karma, and afterlife. As I said, these are the things which could not be proven, right? These are written in text. We are trying to find out. There is no valid source of knowledge according to Charvak. So, because of this, he rejected them. Now, let's understand what his theory of knowledge was, right? Perception is the only praman. The only valid source of knowledge is praman, right? Means of knowledge is this only, and there are like empirical evidences are supreme. Other than that, he is not accepting any other evidences, right? So if a person is sitting in a room and there is like fire going outside, and someone comes and tells the Charvak, you have to move out of this room, he won't listen to you. Why he won't listen to you? Because it is not known by through his five senses. And if it is not known through his five senses, he won't register that, he won't understand that, and he won't implement that. Now, anything beyond five senses is unreliable or illusory. As I said, these are the keywords that you have to write in your answers. Whatever PPTs I'm coming up with, make sure that you are writing it, because you don't have to write in paragraphs. As I said before also, that you'll get 150 words, you'll get 250 words to write the answers, right? So your answer should be very precise, and these are the keywords that should be mentioned in your answers to make it unique, to make it impactful, right? When we write 5 to 7 pages, in 1 or 2 pages we try to warm up our answer, right? And then in somewhere in middle we try to find the relevance of the answer, what has been asked in the question, right? And then last we are so tired that we write anything, right? This is how our answer goes when it comes to long answers. But in 150 and 250 words, our answer should be precise with valid examples, and if you can draw the diagrams, the uniqueness can be reflected in your answer. So make sure that whatever PPTs and keywords I'm coming up with, you are marking it, right? Next, there are types of perceptions that he comes up with. First is external and another one is internal. What is external? It says that there is direct contact with objects, right? Through five senses, right? So if you can see me, if I can see you, this is what? A direct object, right? This is external, right? Then internal is the awareness of mental states like pain, pleasure, and feelings. So this is internal, and according to him, both are valid source of knowledge and both are very much required. Why? Because in external there is direct contact with object, right? Then in internal, the feelings that we are coming up with, these are verified by us, that yes, they are existing. So these are verified. This is why these two are accepted to us. Then we have both are accepted as reliable sources of knowledge. As I said, the reasons are mentioned, and the reasons are that there is direct contact with the object. Another things, they are verified by us, right? So there is no question to it. Then inference depends on unseen connections. He rejected Anumana, right? So basically it says that connection, right? The smoke and that fire, we cannot see connection. And if you remember, there is Western philosopher Hegel also who said something related to it, that cause and effect, if you remember, right? So in the same way, he says these are something which are not proved. You cannot find any connection to it. And Hegel said the same thing, that if ball A is hitting ball B, then there is no, gravity between that. There is no force occurring between that. It is just what? It is just one event occurring after another, right? This is what Hegel says, and somehow its philosophy is relevant to it. Then such assumptions can be wrong. So there are chances that person assumed smoke to be something else, and there are chances that if that smoke won't lead to fire, and it can be seen, right? It can be understood in that way also. So this is why he rejected inference. Then he accepts only what can be directly perceived. These are the reasons why he only perceives and persists, our five senses. Next, he rejects transcendent entities. Like I said, that those all things which cannot be proved, can be seen, heard, right? So he rejected all these. And growth, soul, karma, and rebirth, these are the things which cannot be seen. And if they are like understood, the only source of knowledge by which they are understood is Shabd, testimony, right? And he already rejected that, right? On the basis of that, we reject these entities also, right? And they argue that these cannot be perceived or proved, right? The only source of knowledge is testimony. Either it's written or it's said by someone, right? Now, if it is not proved that whoever wrote that, whoever said it is reliable, is 100% trustworthy, then we cannot trust these inference, right? So focus is only on material world and physical reality. Now, if you are removing such aspect from the society, religion, metaphysical entities from our life, the only thing left is metaphysical world and material reality, right? So this is what he focuses on. Now, his view on religion, as I said, he didn't understand, he didn't implement it, right? He criticized religion, soul, karma, birth, all of these all together, right? So he criticized religion as well, and he's seen as that because someone wanted to take control, right? He wanted to take control from of the society, or they wanted to exploit the society, right? So basically, somehow he is targeting all Brahmins, right? So all the culture who came with this idea of religion, they wanted to dominate, and this is why they came with guides and rules, right? Because there is no proof to it, and priests are criticized by misleading people using fear of afterlife. So this fear of afterlife and this worshipping nature also he criticized. He says that people worship nature also out of fear, because in return they want something else. They want peace. They don't want disasters to be happen, and with that fear they worship nature. And this is what he says, that priests are criticized for misleading people using fear of afterlife. So this fear is leading them to this particular activity that they are doing. Then emphasis on rational and practical life. As I said, that his logic of living was just towards practical life and living at present, at this moment, not thinking about past, not thinking about future. This is what his philosophy is totally based on. Then when we talks about his ethics and morality, he focuses only on pleasure, karma as the highest good, right? Living in today's reality and focuses on pleasure. And pain should be avoided. Happiness is this life is the goal, right? So these are the factors he's coming up with. These are the reasons he's coming up with. Then no moral obligation beyond personal well-beings. There is nothing right, there is nothing bad, there is nothing true, there is nothing false. The only reality is right now, the only reality is pleasure, the only reality is you. So however you are feeling, whatever you are feeling, you should go towards that. This is what his philosophy is. And if we try to implement it today, in today's life, in 2025, we all know that how chaotic our life will be, right? And we should criticize this. Yes, Charvak philosophy is the most criticized philosophy, and there is a reason to it. Even I don't follow this philosophy of his, this part of his. But yes, this overthinking of the society, especially in today's generation, I think it's exceeding a lot. and I think that people should focus on what he's trying to say. But yes, when it comes to morality, when it comes to religion, when it comes to this metaphysical life that we are trying to adapt and we should adapt and it is necessary for the society, then I think it should not be neglected, right? And I'll be waiting for your answer and your thought on this in the comment section. Then he talks about materialism, that everything in the universe is made of four elements: earth, water, air, fire, and water, right? So these are the five elements that he's coming up with. Then consciousness arises from the body, not from the soul. He says that once you die, that consciousness of yours is also dying. There is no afterlife. We don't have any evidences. Is there someone who came from dead and says that yes, this is how afterlife look, or this is how soul looks, right? So we cannot see it, we cannot verify it. All this is proved is by testimony, by shabda, right? And he already criticized that, right? So on the basis of that, he criticized afterlife as well. Then there are other philosophers also, other schools also, and by these schools only we came to know that such school exists: Nyaya, Vedanta, right? Buddhist, Jaina. So these are the school which criticize his philosophy. Nyaya Vedanta criticized because it rejects inference, right? And inference is something very much related and required in Vedanta and Nyaya philosophy, right? And Buddhist Jaina argued that Charvak oversimplifies knowledge. The way he says that we should live in present and not think about anything else, and criticizes Shabda, on which philosophy Nyaya Vedanta is totally based on. This is why his criticism came. Then Charvak remains influential as India's rationalist tradition. Doesn't matter how many people criticized him, but he still holds the relevance in this philosophy, right? So Charvak is the philosopher that we want to implement in our life, but it's very tough too, because his philosophy is very rigid, very limited when it comes to other philosophers as compared to other philosophers. So I'll be waiting for your answer in the comment section. Thank you.